In today's latest news, we discuss the updates around Enzo Fernandez, Malo as well as Matheus Caicedo. To move on, we have some news around Wolves' midfield player Nunes, as we are considering making a move to sign him in the summer window. And to end things, we have some updates around the future of Hakim Ziyech, Conor Gallagher, Christian Pulisic, plus many others as well, as we need to sell some players now to bring the squad down. So right now, my friends, there are still a ton of things to discuss, break down, and hopefully before this window ends, we can pull off an absolute mazza and come close to completing the squad. So if you guys like today's video, help me get over 2,000 likes. Before we get into anything, let me get one big plug out of the way first. Today's video is brought to you by friends of the channel in OneFootball. If you still yet don't have OneFootball, now is the perfect time to download it, and you'll find the download link below in the description and in the top comment as well too. For me, OneFootball is the easiest way to stay up to date to all the latest news on your phone right now. We have stories around the club's plans to build a US-inspired Hall of Fame, which sounds very interesting, and as we do know, Todd Boehly wants to boost the commercial activities around the stadium as well too. Plus, we have many more updated stories that have dropped recently today. But if you guys want to get a quick understanding about where we are in the league, information around the squads, what else is happening in the window outside of us as well too, then OneFootball is the app you need. You'll find a link below in the description and in the top comment too. So right now, let's start with the story that just dropped recently, and let's talk Matheus Nunes of Wolves, because the report from the Telegraph states that we are ready to rival Liverpool to make a move for the midfield player in the summer window. Now, Nunes is an attack-minded midfield player. He's someone that plays box to box, has great energy. We saw him play a fantastic game against us at Stamford Bridge recently, but I have to say this right now, yeah? I'm getting a bit confused behind the midfield profiles we're currently looking at, because with a story like this, I don't necessarily see it as, okay, we are definitely going to sign Nunes in the summer. It makes no sense. How I interpret it is that right now we have a list of midfield players that interests us, that we really like, and we plan to work down that list to try and find the best options. But some of these profiles are like more deep line playmakers, some are more like box to box, some are more like midfield destroyers. We're not going to sign all of them, and I want to feel like there's like a plan for the midfield, because right now we've done incredible things in defense, in the fullback areas, as well as up in attack, but to make everything work seamlessly and beautifully, we need to make sure we pattern that midfield completely. We need to make sure we have a midfield that really complements this team and really just brings the best out of the team, because for me, midfield is the most important position in football. That is the supporting position, and I feel like whenever teams have struggles and issues, normally they tend to come from midfields. For example, let's look at Liverpool. One of the reasons behind their form loss for the season is because their midfield players can't maintain the high intensity pressing standards that they used to have. I feel like right now we have a ton of box-to-box midfield players. We've signed a ton of young ones as well too. It just doesn't make sense, even though Nunes is a very talented player, and even though big clubs are monitoring him, with Liverpool being one of the favourites to try and sign him in the summer. Of course, you look at the exciting talents and profiles, I do understand that, but I just kind of feel like, listen, we spent like millions and millions and millions on box-to-box mids already. I don't think we need to add another one because it gets a bit silly. So that's the first story out of the way. Share your thoughts and opinions. Do you guys see a vision for someone like a Nunes, or do you think this is a good player, but he isn't needed? Now, as we're on the topic of needs, let's discuss the players that we actually need right now. So we have updates on Enzo, Caicedo, and Gusto. And to start with things, let's talk Gusto and get him out of the way first. Now, in terms of recent developments, there isn't too much different from yesterday. We do know that we are getting ready to make that second bid. This will range between 25 to 35 million pounds, and currently Lyon couldn't really say no to an offer like that. Now, Lyon are hoping that they can secure the services of Gusto before this window ends. So on one hand, it's like, why would we make a move for Gusto now if we can't secure him and use him right now? But on the other hand, knowing that this is the final time to really take advantage of these FFP loopholes, listen, in the long term, it makes sense. And we know that Todd Boehly, at least for the next 10 years, is here for the long term. So I completely get it. But there is some interesting news behind potentially allowing him to remain on loan until the season ends, because that would bring down the overall transfer fee for the player. At the same time, I can't imagine it being too substantial to really make us commit to agreeing to Lyon's demands, and if anything, we can pressure them by upping our bids, because we know that Malo only wants to sign for us. Now, I've been reading a lot of reports from the media outside of the club and commentators and all that type of stuff. And a lot of them kind of feel like Gusto is making a stupid decision because we have Reece James here. But I get really confused by this. Does anyone make a big deal when Walker and Rico Lewis are competing, or Cancelo and Zinchenko and all these guys, or Tomiyasu or Ben White? Absolutely not. And if anything, I feel like there's tons of minutes available for Gusto, in the sense where Reece James can now be subbed off in games, and he can replace him to keep his energy for the future. There'll be games where I'd imagine Reece James is playing as the right-sided centre-back with Gusto playing further forwards. And of course, we need rotation minutes. Reece James has shown us that he can't play 60 games consecutively in a season. He's not had that luxury whatsoever. So this is a window of opportunity for a player like Gusto, who will get substantial minutes, learn, grow, and of course win lots of trophies as well too. So he's out of the way. We move on to Enzo Fernandez. Haha, not gonna lie, it's not looking good, bruv. Realistically, this move may not happen in this window. Of course, there's hopes for a move to come back in the summer, but there have been some small rumours sniffling round that maybe Barcelona and Man City could be looking to compete with us in the summer. It doesn't make things impossible, not at all, but it makes things harder, and potentially you could be forced into a bidding war. And with clubs like City and Barcelona, I feel like they do have maybe just a tiny bit more clout than us at this point in time, but who knows what's going to happen, and let's wait. But regardless, Benfica remain adamant that if you want Enzo, you must pay the full release clause. But the issue is, once you then exercise the release clause value, you then have to pay tax on top of exercising the release clause, and the value of the amount of tax that it would take to, of course, relinquish Fernandes from Benfica would be an extra 40 million on top. So there's no way, I'm sorry, I can't be paying 160 for any player unless you're someone like Mbappe. That is the only player that costs that money, in my opinion. Now, Enzo is keeping things respectful. We understand this. So if anything was to happen, we need to present a bid that gets accepted by Benfica. But they're not looking to budge. And at this point in time, the only thing I think we have left are two things. Of course, number one, hopefully agreeing a pre-contract agreement for the summer. I would take that happily right now. And number two, if we can sell some players, can that give us more flexibility in terms of still keeping within FFP, but then maybe makes us think, okay, let's pay the full amount of money because we don't want to compete against City or Barcelona and potentially miss out on our number one option that could take this team to the next level. And of course, now let's discuss Moises Caicedo, because a lot of things are happening right now. And to start with things, Brighton have asked for 100 million if anyone wants to sign Caicedo for right now. They don't want to sell him, they want to keep him. But what's interesting is that earlier today, reports came out saying that Brighton had a bid turned down for Hadara from RB Leipzig that was rejected. So if Caicedo is set to stay, why are you making moves for another midfield player? It's quite obvious what's happening here. And for me, I don't think they'll necessarily command the 100 million. That's to put clubs off, because there's a big possibility they can't sign a replacement for him. But if competition now was to potentially drive the value of this transfer up before the window closes, and the value is around the 75 million that Brighton originally wanted, maybe something can still happen, because reports have come out that Liverpool and Arsenal are looking to battle against us to try and sign Caicedo. You'd imagine that Arsenal's pride is devastated, it's hurting right now. They're doing big things in the league. They could be winning the league for the first time in God knows how long. And this would be a massive statement if they beat us to the signing of a Moises Caicedo. Regardless, we know that Moises has joined a new agency at this point in time, and new agencies bring new conversations, new discussions, and new negotiations. So there's still a lot more to happen in our pursuit to sign a midfield player before this window ends right now. But if I was to be honest with you guys, you know, when the season's over and we're waiting 3 months until the season comes back again, it's always been nice to have like transfer stories to discuss to just help buy that time before the Premier League returns. And at this point, it's not looking like there's going to be much to discuss in the summer, other than maybe sales and like other things happening outside of transfers. And I think summertime is a period that a lot of us like to keep ourselves engaged with the club still and get really excited for. So I would be more than happy to, leave the business at gusto, and then to make sure that in the summer we spend as much time as possible to prepare for the revamp of our midfield. I think that is the best thing to do, and I think if we can get these guys signed very early on next summer, then we're in business, my friends. And next summer when Nkunku and these guys are balling out together, oh my god. Let's move on, let's move on to the final stories now, and we have to discuss some potential exits from this football club. Now, Christian Pulisic would have been one of the favourite exits, but he got injured in typical fashion, and any move to AC Milan, of course, is now off the cards because he's out for at least another 6 weeks, which is not ideal. But there are some news surfacing around Hakim Ziyech as well as Conor Gallagher. In the case of Conor Gallagher, Crystal Palace, long-term interest in the player, as well as Newcastle, who made a bid to try and sign him last summer as well too, are showing interest again. And it's come out that ideally we prefer for Conor to leave on loan, but if we received around 35 to 40 million pounds for the player's services, then we could sell him, and I would completely understand. I do think that Conor, this is a very educational year for Conor this season. He has struggled at times, but he has overcome them at times. He is learning, he's still improving. He joined the national team for the World Cup. He didn't play, but he got exposure to tournament football and playing with better players at a higher level. I feel like since he started the season to where he is right now, there has been some improvement, there has been more confidence in his game, but at the same time, I would understand the sacrifice because, when would Conor be worth this amount of money again if he doesn't take the league by fire again? So on one hand, I think he could do something here, but I get it, and we have other talents like Chukwuemeka, Casaide, and of course Andre Santos, who is really exciting all of us right now. So to discuss one of the favourites who most definitely will be leaving, that is going to be Hakim Ziyech. So right now we have news that both AS Roma and Everton are the favourites right now to try and sign him. Ideally, Ziyech prefers making a move to Roma. He wants to link up with Mourinho. Of course, Roma can play Champions League football. They're building something there, and most importantly, they can offer him very high wages. He's currently earning around 6.5 million a year, and this has been the main stumbling block behind him not getting moves because most clubs interested can't afford him. AC Milan could not afford him. Many others can't afford him. So Roma technically could exercise the growth decree clause, which would allow them to have more flexibility in terms of getting closer to Hakim Ziyech's wage valuation. But realistically, Roma is his number one place to go to. But it does seem like this move fully depends on whether Roma can sell Zaniolo. Zaniolo is attracting interest from AC Milan plus many other clubs, and if he leaves in time, there is money there for Roma to pay around 25 million euros, which is the fee we want to sell Ziyech. But if that move falls through because Zaniolo can't be sold, then Everton would be most likely one of the favourites to sign him based on the fact that we want him off the wage bill and we want to earn some money and reduce the size of the squad. Now, I think Ziyech is a lot better than Everton, but money talks and we have our own aspirations that we're building towards. And even though I don't like these stories sometimes, I understand the sacrifices that come from that, but I'm hoping for Ziyech's own sake that he gets a move to a good European club where he's playing European football, because I'm always going to say this, he's way better than people realise, and he's just been very unlucky throughout his entire career with us that things don't work for him at the wrong times. So there you guys have it. They are the latest stories that came out today. Expect more news to be dropping recently too. And before I end things, I might be doing a Q&A live stream later tonight, so stay tuned for that. In case I do, I'm going to post the announcement on my community page, so make sure you guys, of course, stay aware. So on that note, I'm Nini FC. This is BlueLionsTV. I'll catch you guys later for some more videos. Cool.